Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica Podcast. I am Mustafa Sharif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRY. AFRY is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. We have a new episode and we have an amazing storyteller. I have the pleasure to welcome you, Anna, to Urbanistica Podcast. Hello and welcome.
Thank you, Mustafa. Marvelous to be here.
How are you doing, Anna?
I'm doing quite well. It's been a media-filled day because we were also filming a documentary about our company earlier on. So interesting.
Amazing.
Times.
Now you're like a celebrity and a public figure.
Yeah, I would like to sort of comment Eurovision Song Contest and celebrate, but maybe we won't go into that today.
Yeah. And it's so beautiful behind you. Where are you now?
I'm based in Helsinki, and our office is in this old building, which is like a really beautiful pink or rose-colored building.
Nice. So, Anna, I hope you're ready. Should we start?
I am.
Yes.
Let's get going.
Yeah. So you are our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself to our listener?
Yes. So I'm a urban geographer, planning geographer named Anna Broberg from Finland. And I'm maybe an interesting figure from that perspective that I've been studying children's independence, mobility and active transportation, but then afterwards turned into an entrepreneur. So kind of gone to the dark side from the academic.
And now you're based in Helsinki, I guess, right?
Yes.
Yes. And we met and you told me quickly about your research, and it was very interesting, still interesting as well. And that's why we are recording this episode. So can you give us a background about why you did your research within this topic, mobility and children?
Yes. Well, I mean, the background, I guess, lies in the fact that children's lives and environments are changing a lot. Childhood obesity is growing in all of the Western world. And I mean, while Finnish kids, for example, have been historically speaking very independent in international comparisons, that is also changing. And then kind of another sort of streak to this is the fact that this environmental health promotive environment, this kind of research discussion has been quite prevalent in United States and UK. So I was sort of thinking of these two themes and then wanted to know if there's something in the Finnish urban structure that actually sort of either sort of promotes or hinders children's active lifestyle. So that was kind of where I started from. Yeah.
And in which university you did your research?
I did it in Aalto University. I mean, back in the days, it was the Helsinki University of Technology. But here in Finland.
And how did you start it? If you tell us about because you need to formulate this research question, right, to shape it and so on. So how was this process, defining exactly what you want to research?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. My supervisor and a good friend also was and is Margetta Kyttä, who's now professor of land use planning in Aalto. But she's by origin, she's an environmental psychologist who has been studying child-friendly environments. And according to her model, which is actually called Bullerby, which might be kind of fun for the Swedish listeners, but the Bullerby model of child-friendliness sort of states that the child-friendliness of environments is is dictated by an abundance of affordances, and that is like things to do, sort of things to find, activities to do, and with the independent, the possibility of moving independently in that environment to sort of search and find and be sort of interested in your environments and walk and cycle and sort of generally just play and move around. So this is, I mean, we were thinking about this, but then I was at the same time like very much interested in the health promotive environments, and then I started thinking that could I somehow sort of match or sort of smash these things together. And then I was reading a lot about the transportation studies in US and UK, and how obviously that if you think of urban structure and of the like supercar dependent structures of United States, you don't find anything like that in Scandinavia. But still, I had the feeling that the urban structure might play a role there. And that's where I kind of started formulating the questions.
Yeah. And where is your like case or area, and like tell me more about the methodology.
Yes. So I was researching multiple Finnish cities. So Helsinki, Turku, and Tampere. These are the three biggest cities in Finland. But I mean, they are not sort of huge metropolises at all. So they sort of have both like urban, but then also very sort of rural type of environments. And I was researching 5th and 8th graders. And the methodology that we were using was what we call soft GIS.
Soft?
But it's a soft, yeah.
Okay.
You probably want to hear a bit more about
I love
that.
to.
Yes, soft. So the idea is using GIS, geographical information systems, to allow people kind of marking their soft like emotions, experiences, perceptions on the map. This was Marketta's innovation.
Okay.
And I mean, this is part of the public participation GIS sort of discussion that has also been quite a sort of hot topic in like urban planning and geography.
But is it a device?
Lately. It is, I mean, it is a methodology, and what we were like innovating and working with at the university has then turned into the company where I work now, and we can maybe talk about that
also. Yes,
it's more later on. But so the methodology was that I or then later on research assistants were in contact with schools and teachers, and sort of we with the help of teachers and ourselves, we then allowed children and youth to map their important places, plus then their school journeys. So they were marking on an interactive internet sort of based map the way they were sort of walk and cycle and use any transportation method. What are their important places, where these places are, what do they do there, how much they like these places, with whom they come to these places. So sort of trying to capture the many different sort of things that kids do, and how they use their environment and why.
Yeah. Was it easy to get permission? Because usually, like now when I'm talking like with the children in the school, I need to go through a school, then school talk with parents, and then I get an okay to talk with the kids.
Yeah.
Was it easy? Because I guess yours is more like a long-term, bigger project than like my public participation, little projects.
Yes. I mean, I must, if we all in all like think how life is, I think everything has become a bit more trickier by the years. So, I mean, the first data set was gathered in, let's say, 2006-07. So I mean, it's quite a few years ago already. And then we didn't have that much of a struggle. But yes, you need to. I mean, you need to. kind of get the permission from the educational board of the cities, and then from the school itself, like the headmaster, and then the teachers and parents and all of that.
Of course, yeah.
I mean, and though I think it's not sort of legally it's not a legal sort of thing that you actually need. I mean, at least like according to the Finnish sort of lawmakers, they say that 5th and 8th graders should be they are capable of giving their consent themselves.
Yeah. I
think we are quite sensitive here.
No, I mean also, like, let's say if I have a child in a school, I also want to know, like, what are you going to do with my kid? You know, like, what is this research? So it's also like good for everyone. But sometimes it takes a lot of time to.
Yeah. I mean, it is a struggle
to get a permission. Yeah. So tell me, like, would you like to tell me how you the process, like how you were doing with kids, or you want to tell me about the findings?
Yeah, I guess the process in itself is not. I mean, the fact that we allowed kids themselves to kind of map their environments and their interesting places, I think that is interesting, because if you think of a sort of traditional survey you could do, it's pretty much sort of, I mean, paper and pen survey, it's very structured. But then when you allow kids themselves to sort of think of and think also outside of the box, I mean, often when we are researching like mobility choices and transportation, we are looking at school journeys, for example. But it's just like one fraction of how kids use their environments. So that is kind of, I think, specific about the methodology, like allowing kids to map multiple locations and tell about those.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, but maybe then, like, if we think of findings more, I mean, maybe like comparing that to the international findings. I mean, if we once again sort of link to the US, like supercar dependent environments, there the constant sort of finding is that the denser the environment is, the more walkable it is. Because there are density of destinations, so there are things you could walk to, there's interesting things. There might be sort of walkways.
So dense in
like
the terms
pavements.
of buildings and function,
building
not
density.
only people.
Building density.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, building density and people density, they to some extent go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But then you might also have like big building footprints with no residential density whatsoever. I mean, that would be the general trend in US. Whereas then in these Finnish cities, interestingly, it was more like moderate density that like produced most walking and cycling, so active transportation. And there, I think one of the key things was that we have such good public transportation, and then kids and youngsters of these ages are able to go to places themselves. So then they are using, I mean, they are also pressed for time, so they are also using tram and bus when it's kind of useful for them. But then I think, like, if we think of child friendliness, it's important to not only think of the independence, the mobility choices and all of this, but like remember the other kind of other end of the fourfold, which is the like multitude of things to be done. And there, once again, then the density of destinations is important. So the central areas of all of these cities were like really densely marked by children with variety of things to do. So that's maybe the like density message that one might want to make. At least in Finland, the discussion about like whether like very dense urban cores are sort of like suitable for kids.
For kids.
That was quite prevalent like 10 years ago when I was doing, but maybe less so nowadays.
Yeah. And Anna, when you say mobility, what do you mean by mobility?
It's a good question. I mean both, like the mode choice. So would it be then like walking, cycling, using scooter, being chauffeured by your mom or dad,
Mm,
or using public transportation? So that is like one part of mobility, but then the other part of mobility is the social part of it. So do you do it yourself with your friends, or do you need your parents or some other guardians
mm.
to take you? But it's generally like moving around,
Yeah.
both from A to B, but then just like moving
Mm,
just for the
mm,
fun
mm.
of it.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the density of buildings and people is one element to promote like children's independent mobility, the
Hmm.
accessibility to like a public transportation. Are
Hmm.
there any other elements?
Now let me think. Uh, I wouldn't say that in like, generally speaking, yes, there are
Yeah.
elements, like once again, like the US and UK studies show that like having zebra crossings, having sort
Mm,
of safe walking paths promotes mobility. Uh, none of that. I mean, these sort of structures for
mm,
mobility are so prevalent in Finnish cities that you cannot say,
mm,
like,
mm,
statistically speaking, there were no findings related to this. But obviously, like having safe surroundings, like safe transportation
yeah.
sort of network
Mm,
is important. But then I guess like some of the like interesting findings
mm.
are also related to, and a bit sort of maybe contrasting in some way,
Yeah.
because also then like green structures, uh,
Green.
green
Yeah.
structures sort of allow for active transportation and independent mobility when we talk about like the important places that kids mark.
Mm,
And green spaces have also other elements to them. So they, for example, uh, when children marked these places and told how much they like about them, so those places that had to do with like emotional affordances, like feeling calm, feeling rested, enjoying. So they were more light if they were in greener
mm,
environments. Whereas then for sort of more social, like meeting friends, having fun with others, these kind of things, they were more liked when they were in denser settings.
ah,
So I guess in a way also sort of, if we think of child-friendly environments and urban planning in general, I think this also shows that we need kind of variable environment. There's no one environment that would
mm,
be like one type of environment, but the sort of multifacetedness of our environments is what is good,
mm.
I guess, for kids and for adults as well.
Yeah. And the three cities that you explore and within your research, so are they suitable for children in the terms of mobility and transportation?
Sorry, the Finnish settings,
Yeah, the Finnish cities
these
that you had it.
cities, yeah,
Yeah.
yes, I would say absolutely so.
Mm,
Yes.
mm. And are there like some kind of guidelines you have in Finland, or no, not really, when it comes to children's and mobility?
No, no, I wouldn't say
Mm,
too much.
mm.
I mean, as I said, like Finnish kids are pretty independent, and that has been a sort of also cultural,
Okay.
sort of in a way, somehow sort of appreciated that the kids can
Yeah.
move around
Yeah.
independently.
Mm. And we have many planners and traffic engineers and traffic planner
Mm.
listening to you now. So, what should we stop doing when we plan cities and when we urban design? Do you have an advice for us, like based on your research
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah,
it's a good question, and I was kind of thinking of this, like what to say about that. I guess sort of trying to um, trying to give like have all of the different sort of age groups in mind in a way. So not necessarily sort of building for elderly or building for children. I don't think that the elements of good urban environments are so different for different age groups. But there's something I also was thinking about is that like these like teenagers, youth, they are often the forgotten group in our planning and in general. I mean, they are not anymore kids. They don't go to playgrounds, but they are kind of also often a bit sort of intolerated. I mean, they are rowdy and loud, but at the same time, they are, for them, the most marked thing was like hanging out with friends. So they are like, everything they do is like very social, and somehow like how could we incorporate that kind of places into our urban structures that would allow for that social sort of hanging out, being together without sort of feeling somehow intimidating for other groups of people.
Yeah.
I don't have any answers, but that's something I've been thinking of.
Yeah. Do you also have it like because in Sweden and some suburbs we have like the youth, they are gathering in the metro stations because they are, especially during the winter, because they have no place to go to. All places cost, and there are some association, but they close at certain time. So we see like a number of young people gathering in the metro stations just to hang out with each other. Is it the same in Finland, or how is it?
Yeah. I guess these like unofficial hanging out places, and to the extent that some of these places then play loud classical music to kind of to in a way like make the hanging out less
more
sort of pleasurable for them.
Yeah.
So it's And also, I guess this is the sort of Scandinavian or like northern problem that the weather is so nice that it doesn't really permit sort of hanging out in the parks.
And you mentioned the first point about we stopped doing is that we focus only on one target group instead of like planning for people, like people. But some people require specific needs, like some group. Do you think we should do some kind of universal design or planning that fits to everyone? Is it possible to do that?
Maybe not. Maybe not. I mean, of course, we need to sort of be like inclusive for people with different needs. Absolutely. So we need to accommodate that. But maybe I'm thinking more like, I don't know if you have kids, but maybe you have spent time sort of in a playground, sort of sitting next to the sandbox and like think like, why is there nothing that would also? I mean, the kids are quite happy playing with each other, but there's nothing for you to do except to.
Yeah.
So in a way, sort of incorporating different elements into the places.
Yeah. More things that we should stop do as planners you have in mind?
Well, let me think. I'll go through my thinking. I've been so happily chatting with you that I
sometimes happens that
getting now I think this like my main point that I wrote down is like allow hanging out to happen for youngsters.
And also usually I ask my guest about skills that we should learn as a planners. What do you think that we should learn, or maybe something we have that we should develop?
Well, this is maybe sort of less related directly to my PhD, but then to the work I'm doing right now, because I feel, and I mean this does link also to kids and youth. So I think like what we should learn is how to engage with different populations. So doing active outreach to different stakeholder groups and engaging them in our planning processes. and then transparently communicating about our plans, and like also about the facts, how then the insights we have been gathering from the stakeholders, how that has been incorporated into the plans. So that is something like a theme that I've been working a lot during the past years.
Was it easy for you to communicate with children and to deliver your message and so on during the process?
I think it was. I mean, I have a history of being in Scouts, so I mean,
nice.
hanging with kids and talking with youngsters was not problematic. What I found like more problematic actually is because my research was so sort of methodological and academic in a way. I mean, it was very much sort of linked to the like academic discussions of health promotive environments and how to measure the environmental exposure and how to turn that into research findings. So actually how to turn those findings into something like really usable in planning. So I think that is the struggle. And I actually feel that is the struggle in much of the research that is being done.
Yeah, I usually hear this a lot, like how can we link the findings from the research into the to the practitioners, like implementing it. And a lot of researchers have difficulties with it. I guess if from your perspective, is it because of what do you think there's like this gap?
It's a very good question, and I've been thinking this, and now that I like after many years actually read through my dissertation, because I mean at the company I work in Maptionnaire, my like dear colleague from university is also one of the co-founders, and her PhD was about like public participation and how this type of data that I was also collecting and using in my PhD, how that could be used in urban planning practices to make sort of more influential participation. So if I'm now comparing like how often we talk about her PhD and the actual themes there, but I guess there the difference was that we did the research. I was also part in those research processes. So the difference was that we actually worked with the urban planners, like in an ongoing sort of manner all the time, parallelly. So we were reporting, we were doing the research for the actual cities, actual municipalities, and reporting of the findings, along with reporting to academic journals. But my PhD was like purely for academic journals, and it was like, I mean, I was like really climbing higher and higher up the ivory tower all the time, like fine tuning my like analytical skills and the methodology and
everything. So you think that it's we should work like together as a practitioner, as a research, like the research should be done together with the practitioners somehow?
I think much of the research would benefit from that. I don't say, I mean, there's also this sort of basic level like research that is like very academic and is done to sort of somehow sort of force the research like research sphere to go further and further. But it's a very tricky question, because then also, I mean, it's for academy, it's not good if it's too much sort of dictated by sort of politics and the sort of practices and like in a way like reality. But it's a fine balance.
Because like me as a practitioner, like sometimes I love to read some researches, but like for me it's like to not barriers, but the challenges. One is like it's a huge amount of text in the report, and the other one is like the language used. I think it's maybe it's only for me, but like it's not simple. So I can just, because when we work, it's about time. Like we need to do things.
Yeah,
So
quickly. Yeah.
what I love to see, like, okay, if there's some quick findings from a research that I can just like see what is there, and then I implement it
Mm.
instead of putting like many hours. It's the same thing with the reports from like this huge global organization, like the report like 250 pages.
Yeah.
Like for me, it's like a kind of hopeless. Okay, I need
Mm.
a week to read it or something like this.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, no one will do it. It should be somehow turned into bite-sized.
Mm.
But I mean, now that I read through these articles, one of the journals like required that you sort of like make 3 key takeaways for
Ah,
practitioners
okay.
that you need to. And I think that would be like pretty
Yeah.
smart
Yeah.
that everyone should like think of it like, so what can you learn from
Mm.
this?
Mm. Interesting. Yeah, this is always like this because the research should be a research and not really influenced by what the market needs or the corporate
Mm.
needs or the politics needs. It should be like a pure research for the common good. And
Yeah, but at the same time, it
at the
should
same time, it should be give
it should
back.
inform the
Exactly.
impact the common
Yeah,
good,
give
like
back,
the
give
yeah.
back to people. And yeah, it's interesting discussions about this topic. But tell me, like, what was the interesting moment in your research, like, or your favorite moment?
I guess like I really enjoyed the fact that I was creating something new and solving complex problems and like reading a lot and then turning it into something new.
Yeah,
So sort of, yeah,
like,
I would say, yeah, creating new methodological and analytical models.
mhm.
But as I already mentioned, I was climbing higher and higher
Well,
up.
what do you mean by climbing higher? Like you would dig deep into
I
the
mean, like, yeah, I mean, you start with something like pretty simple and
yeah,
clear. For let's if I explain like like for example like we try to understand how environment affects children's mobility.
yeah,
So we look at where the child is, and then we circle the child's home with a
mm,
500-meter buffer, and then calculate stuff
yeah,
from the buffer zone
mm,
around their home, and say so child's environment is the 500-meter zone around their home.
yes,
And then I started thinking, well, I mean, it's environmental exposure is a bit more complicated than that. So then I started sort of buffering the places they had mass, and then I made a
like
sausage buffer like along the routes that they had taken. And I mean,
you just expand and expand.
expand and like make it more fine-grained and more fine-grained. And I
Yeah.
know that the researchers have like afterwards they are looking at the time in different environments
Mm.
and like balancing the environmental exposure by the time, and like it goes finer and finer, but no one in actual planning project can do anything like this. I mean,
No,
it's not, as you say,
too
everyone's pressed
too
for
big,
time.
too big. It's
It's
too big,
too
right? Yeah, yeah,
complicated. It's
yeah.
too like no one. So that's what I'm saying, like climbing
Yeah.
higher and higher. So making it more the time, all the time, like more fine-tuned and complex.
But if you
And
make it
once again, it is important, sort of in
yeah,
a way, like basic research and
yeah,
basic sort
yeah.
of conceptualization of the environment, but it doesn't inform the practitioners much.
Because like it's gonna be too many steps, and then we just don't want to do it because like it's too big. But like it's is it good if you like expand and expand, because then you're closer to the reality, right? You have more data, or no? I'm thinking wrong here.
In a way, I mean, yes, you do. You have more data, but I
Mm.
guess if we think of actual planning process
Mm.
and the data, I mean, data needs, and if we now think of like this kind of engagement data,
Yeah.
for example, like children's environments, so there's level of I mean, it gets saturated how much more data
you have
and like complexity you can take, because you also need to then like draw conclusions and
exactly.
like go further, like based on the data, maybe sort of create sort of next proposals for the
Next
I don't know
research,
park area based on the data you got, so that it doesn't much make sort of difference on like how did the people come to that park, and did the structure of the transportation network next to that park influence it.
Yeah. And what is the, I don't know what to say, the hardest or slash tough moment during this research?
I guess there were two. One was that I got like constantly rejected by a journal where I sort of desperately wanted to have my articles published.
Why
So
they
that
say
was,
no?
somehow they felt that it was not suitable for there, but it was health and place. So I felt that this has to do with health and places, like spatial things.
Yeah.
So that was kind of from academic perspective, but then like from this other perspective that we have been speaking about here, when I needed to write the summary in Finnish.
Yeah.
That was
why
super hard. Well, because I had been talking and reading and writing and analyzing and researching so much in this academic sphere.
Yeah.
Like reading the journals, Health and Place and others, and also writing there, then actually turning that into clear and beautiful Finnish was surprisingly hard. Yeah.
Because you
once again, if I compare to Marit's, my colleagues, research that we constantly were doing with the Finnish planners and practitioners, so there we had been. I mean, it wasn't that it was any more like any less complicated, but we had been creating the vocabulary and the terminology as we went. And all of a sudden I was sitting there and, what is this actually? What is active transportation in Finnish?
Because your PhD is in English, right?
In English,
and then
yes.
The summary, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. It is, and this is actually like one thing I think we should consider when, at least in Finland, the like university education is more and more happening in English. So I think you maybe lack something in your thinking if you don't do it in your mother tongue.
And that's also true. For me, I do this podcast in Arabic. I'm from Baghdad. So sometimes I also find it very hard to take some terms like, I don't know, placemaking, active participation, or community engagement. Like, like some words.
Yeah, all of things that you've been talking about in English and in
every
Swedish.
time. Exactly. I work with every day. And then in the front of my guest, I was like blackout. This word, this word.
But there wasn't a word in Arabic for placemaking.
No, there is no there. So I explain around until they understand, or I do this when I lose the exact word.
Yeah.
Do you recommend practitioners to go to the research world and do research?
At least I suggest that everyone would go and meet in some good sort of events and conferences. I guess there are sort of nice events that kind of combine both practitioners and more sort of academic sort of speakers, because I think it's super fruitful that everyone meets with each other and kind of tests their thinking a bit.
Yeah, interesting. And sorry, you work at Maptionnaire.
Yeah,
I'd love to hear more, because I know we wanted also to use Maptionnaire in a project. So it's interesting that you work there as well. So tell me, what do you do? What is your role there as well?
Yeah, so well, I'm one of the co-founders at Maptionnaire and work in the management team, but my kind of main task is product management.
Yeah.
So kind of Maptionnaire is a community engagement platform. So it is actually a sort of like product of the original soft GIS idea. But the idea is to allow resident stakeholders to map their sort of thoughts, for example, related to a planning proposal on a map, and hence sort of creating, rather than like random feedback, creating a GIS database of the like stakeholder thinking that can then be sort of used in planning process by the planners. But yeah, what I do, I work in our product management. So I speak with the tech team, I speak with our customers, with our sales team, with our customer support, and sort of listen to everyone's sort of hopes and wishes, and try to turn that into a sort of workable product vision that our tech team can then realize for everyone to use.
Now, especially maybe during the COVID and after the COVID, a lot of cities start to use Maptionnaire, right? Is it a lot to do with COVID or no?
I think partly it has to do with COVID. So the whole sort of digitalization process that kind of, I think it geared up due to COVID, but using like digital methods of community engagement has been active also before that, and is also actually mandated by law in surprisingly many countries. So some sort of digital methods need to be taken into urban planning.
We have a big discussion here in Sweden about the digitalization of community engagement process. Like, should we only, let's say, send them on Maptionnaire and they sign in from their phone or laptop and write feedback? Or should we go there and meet them personally, like IRL? Because some comments come, like people are usually angry, and from the screen they write more negative feedback than a positive. What is your reflection about this? Like, how should we approach this?
Yeah. So did you say that when they are using digital methods, they can be angrier?
They are a bit more like complaining extra.
Yeah, this is super interesting that you say that, because I think one thing that Finnish planners said after starting using Maptionnaire, they were surprised by the abundance of positive and constructive feedback they got. So because, I mean, if you think of a public meeting, there it often sort of the discussion is around sort of being against the changes that are about to happen, and there maybe, I mean, the loudest people who are the angriest might get sort of most airing time in a way. So I mean, I'd say that digitalization has brought up more positive
more voices.
Yeah, absolutely. More voices, the broader outreach, more like variable resident groups that are being reached. That is not to say that digital methods are sufficient. Not at all. I think it should be part of the sort of toolbox in the community engagement. So absolutely, public meetings are needed. And then if we are sort of aiming towards actually sort of inclusive engagement, we also need to have strategies for actively engaging those people who are hardest to reach. So active outreach to, for example, immigrant populations. They for sure don't too often come to public meetings, but there might be sort of problems with language skills, etc. So
interesting. So do you think a lot about the different age groups when you work with Maptionnaire? Let's say this is for this age group, or this is only for children, or this is only for old people, and so on.
Yeah, well, now I must confess, I mean, I don't work at all anymore, more or less, like with these themes, but I know that customers, I mean, age group is often asked, or always asked as part of the background questions, and then cities tend to do sort of specifically for kids and youth, some like specific outreach things, just because, well, I guess it's sort of they want to go to, for example, schools or
Yeah.
some events. They maybe want to ask a bit about different things. There was one sort of very interesting sort of example from Cardiff, UK lately, where they were asking sort of youngsters about their sort of perceived safety in urban environments.
Yeah.
So I mean, it might be that the themes are like directed to sort of specific groups. But all in all, I mean, if we think of urban, I was saying that urban environment should be done so that it suits kind of, it's good for everyone.
Yeah.
So I also in a bit feel that like engagement, like community engagement, for example, these digital tools, they should also be done in a way that they are suitable for everyone, almost everyone.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's no need to be so complicated that you need to make another thing for kids. Or,
Exactly.
for example, so I mean, you should strive for clarity and simplicity.
Of course, I think, like, from my perspective, is good to have the combination. Of course, with like a tool like a Maptionnaire, we reach out to so many people that we're dreaming even of going to them, and also collecting different types of data and so on. At the same time, I think it's always good to show the face of city, like to be on the ground, to talk
Absolutely.
to people, to understand why they are angry, to take their questions, like to build a relationship instead of hiding behind screens. I met like in so many different these community participation dialogues. People were super angry. They tell me like, we never met a person from the municipality in 5 years. So that's why they are angry. But if, from my opinion, like if we are there also as well, of course, digital should be there, but also we should be on the ground, talk with them,
that is
explain
true
to them.
That is true, and I think like in maybe most sort of beautiful cases, you can sort of combine even.
Exactly.
So maybe you do something like digitally, and when you go and speak with people, you also maybe share what you have done digitally. In another, hey, this is, I mean, we heard from this and this many people. This is what we got to look at the results. How do you feel about these results? So then, I mean, I don't say that people should not be sort of, let's be angry. It's good to also hear that, but also to be able to sort of then talk about the actual thing at hand. And they're using the like big data gathering methods, and then turning that into something a bit sort of more tangible, and discussing about that is a good way of sort of combining digital and physical.
I think for many angry citizens, there are some reasons, that made them become so angry during the dialogues. But I like your idea, actually. I will try to implement it, like gather data first, and then to the next ERL meeting also talk about these data and see like how much.
And I mean, and people might have interesting insights. They might see something, some patterns in your data that you might sort of not recognize yourself. You might hear more. They say, oh yeah, I see this spot on the map. So many have. I know that the problem is, and you can kind of enrich the digital data with in real life.
How is the competition in the market now? Are there many other platforms like this? Is it growing?
They are popping. It's growing.
Okay.
They are popping all the time. So it's kind of fantastic even. I mean, we have been in the market for 12 years. And obviously we started very slow. We were doing our PhDs on the side, and a couple of babies and what's not. But I mean, first we were so alone talking about community engagement and digitalization. They were like, why?
Exactly.
Why?
What's the point?
No, why? Girls, don't try. But so in a way, I mean, it's nice because then you have more voices speaking about the like value of doing this kind of things.
What is the next step? What do you want to create, or where do you want to head as a platform or a tool? You call it tool or platform?
Platform. tool is not bad at all either. We want to make the integrating the data that has been collected like more profoundly to the processes and like be able to communicate about the data gathering and analysis in a better way, because I mean, as you said, people can be angry. There was a recent study in Finland by Pilvi Nummi and Evelina Harsia. They studied the stakeholder perception of the engagement process. And what they found, the more clearly it is communicated what has been done, what has been found out, and what is going to happen next, the happier the people were.
Nice.
About the process.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's all about like being transparent. You maybe don't need to include everyone. I mean, you never can. But just like being able to talk about like, hey, this is everything we did this week, communicating clearly and transparently showing how people's voices are being heard and how it affects the planning outcome.
There is a saying, what was the saying? Like if people don't know about it, they are afraid from it, something like this. We are afraid of things we don't know. So like I think, as you mentioned, Anna, if we communicate what we are doing, so maybe they understand our journey and join us and support us as well.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right there. And I mean, of course, I mean, unless your living environment is a total mess, you don't want any changes. It's your home. I mean, you want things to stay as you are used to it, and it's your place, your environment. So but then if we think of like all the changes that are about to happen, our lives need to change in so many ways.
Yeah, that's true.
Of climate change and everything. So, I mean, having people on board in that and like having those discussions and communicating about what's about to come, I think it's like super, super important.
Of course,
now.
yeah. No, the thing is that as planners, architects, we are working with city developments. Our goal is to make a better everyday life for people. So to make their life easier instead of creating new problems for them.
Yeah.
So this is the mission that we are actually working with, making a life easier, better for them, not causing new problems and challenges. So Anna, we talked a little bit about your research, about your workplace, as what you do at work. Let's talk more about you. So we are in the final section of this episode, and it's going to be more about you, Anna. And my first question about what motivates you to do what you do?
Yeah, well, I'm motivated by creating a change. So actually sort of allowing for better processes and in the end, like more livable and lovable environments for us all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what gives you energy.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Actually seeing changes happening.
Yeah. And what do you want people to say and tell about you when they read your name 100 years from now, like in the future?
Yeah, well, I think I wish them to say, oh, woo, this lady was part of the Maptionnaire team. I remember what they did.
That's cool.
I'm modest.
Nice. And name something you did in your career and you're very proud of, and then something you did in your career and you look back, you kind of regret or you don't want to do it again.
Yeah, well, I'm proud of the fact that we've been able to turn a research innovation into an actual business. I think that doesn't happen too often. So we have 15 people working with Maptionnaire, and the tool is used in 40 plus countries by hundreds of organizations.
Wow.
So I mean, that's
huge.
All of this, like with the geographers background.
Yeah.
So I think, and I also think that we've been able to sort of to some extent already sort of change
Yeah.
the planning practices and the style of engagement that is happening.
Yeah. Bring
So that
together.
I'm pretty proud of.
No, I can tell you as well, like I know like you're a company working and so on, but what is good that you do, you bring us closer to the community, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
So shout out to the team. And
Yeah.
what is the thing that you regret doing it, or you don't want to do it again?
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, I was joking about being modest in my sort of vision of people like sitting at my grave thinking that, wow, this person was behind Maptionnaire. But I think what I'm regretting a bit is that I've been quite modest. I think I could have been braver even.
In which specific
In
situation?
well, in many ways. I mean, I think like partly having the academic background, there's this like constant. I mean, you are learned to be sort of constantly self-critical.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
that is part of research
Yeah, I hear
training.
this a lot. Yeah. From
Yeah,
researchers. Yeah.
So, but that is not a fantastic streak when you are supposed to be an entrepreneur. Then you should just go like, whoa,
Yeah.
like we are the best
I have the
in
best
this
solution ever.
field.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and then you're like, on one hand, on the other
Yeah.
hand, there are these drawbacks, and it might be. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I could have been like braver entrepreneur
But
from the start.
it's a big transition for you also, like from academic self-criticizing everything to entrepreneur that should believe and push and pitch, like it's a huge
It is a
transition.
totally different mindset. So it's not
Easy.
weird like looking back.
Yeah, I
That
understand.
it was such a complicated thing. But that's something I'm regretting a bit, that it took us so many years to sort of really start believing that, hey, we're going to do this.
Which one is closer to your heart, like being Anna the researcher or Anna the entrepreneur?
The entrepreneur.
The entrepreneur,
easily.
like the...
Yeah, easily.
Really?
Nowadays. Yeah. I mean, well, I must believe in it by now.
No, so you're in the right place or doing the right thing.
I'm in the right place. I was in the right place back in the days.
Yeah, in that time, yes.
Yeah.
Interesting. And how do you because I know entrepreneurs, they are very passionate about what they do, and sometimes it gets into the family life, hobbies, private lives. For you, how is it like to separate between these two? Or do you separate? You don't? You enjoy it? How is it?
I do separate between other life and work life.
Yeah.
So I've struggled with it, as I guess everyone in like this brain economy does. It's your phone is with you all the time.
Yeah.
But I have 2 kids that keep me busy, and then I have hobbies that are completely separate. So I mean, I try to have also other life.
What do you do as a hobby?
Oh, I do granny stuff. I sing in a cappella band. I knit. I bake sour bread.
Nice.
I would love to say that I do some sort of sports or something, but actually, I mean, you need to pick not maybe pick your battles, but there's just so much time you have.
That's true. And you say 2 kids, right?
Yeah, 2 kids.
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. I mean, are they also like into this urban planning atmosphere or not? No, not really.
No, well, they are 5 and 9, so it's a bit hard to. So they are still quite young.
Yeah. So
hard to say.
Anna, if you choose another profession to work with, what would you like to do?
I would love to be an editor in Finnish language.
Editor?
Yeah.
You just complain about the summary.
some professional working with Finnish language.
Okay. Why? You just complain about the summary thing.
Yeah, but that is, I mean, I have quite high standards for like good quality language.
Yes.
So and there I kind of noticed it also.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I used to study Finnish at the university for a very short period
Yeah.
before I understood.
Ah,
I mean, it's been a dream, but then I understood.
this
Oh, Anna, this will. I mean, this is not smart. Go back to your geography studies and finish them.
Okay, so you want to work like in a newspaper? Where do you want?
No, I would rather I would like to polish other people's texts,
Just like,
and that is something I get to do here as well.
that's good.
I mean, as part of my working
Yeah,
life
yeah.
here. So when we do Finnish texts,
Yeah, so you go through
I'm
and
always
checking.
like I'm with a red pen there.
This is so
Fixing.
interesting. Yeah,
Mm.
you're enjoying this. Awesome, Anna. So in the end of this episode, I have the three last questions. The first one is that you give a message to yourself.
Yes. My message to myself is that, hey, Anna, kick your kids out of the house more often so that they can be independent in their surroundings. Even if they are 5 and 9, I mean, they are completely capable.
So kick kids out.
Kick kids out. Allow them to get bored.
To experience the world.
Yeah.
Yes. Nice. And 3 takeaway messages to our listeners.
Yes. Well, this is actually linked to the message to myself, but I think like message 1, make good and exciting environments for everyone, allowing for unexpected things to happen. So don't polish it out too much.
Yeah.
And then message number 2 is also related to this. So positive experiences in the environment motivate people to move around and explore their surroundings. So creating this positive loop of going around. And then point 3 is related to engagement. So listen to the thoughts of children and youth as part of your engagement processes for planning. Kids are often clear and innovative thinkers.
True. That's so
they
true.
I think they are more okay for changing the status quo than we.
So true. And the last question is going to be you asking it to us. So what is your question to us?
My question to you all is, if you have kids, how much freedom, and not just in terms of independent mobility, but also in terms of scheduling, do you grant them?
What do you mean by scheduling?
Scheduling. I mean, this is something that I've been thinking with my 9-year-old son, who doesn't have that many hobbies because he just would like to hang out.
Yeah.
But it's kind of hard to hang out and be active in your environment if everyone's schedule is super packed.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
understand you.
Like the sort of independent play and exploration for kids requires other kids.
Exactly.
Who are
Yeah.
I think this is actually something we spoke about when we met in Helsingborg.
Yeah.
And this is one of another sort of another thing where we have this fine balance. There needs to be some independence, but too much independence is obviously like terrible.
True. That's very true. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's true.
But I'm guessing that our listeners are mainly sort of educated middle class, sort of middle-aged folks. So for them, like this scheduling and freedom is, I think, it's an important question.
It's a very good question. So Anna, I'm real happy that we talked and we chat with each other. Hopefully also see you in the, coming conferences, events, or maybe podcast. But thank you so much again for giving your time to this.
Thank you, Mustafa. It was a pleasure. And hopefully we'll see.
Yeah. Ciao.
Okay. Ciao.